Rush Hour Podcast. We're back. I'm T-Dub. This is Justin. If you guys don't know us, we're two tech guys that aren't technical, but we're here to give you the latest and greatest on the tech industry from a, business perspective, from a non-technical VC billionaire, trillionaire angle. So the everyday angle, I'd like to say. Shout out to all the people that watched our Bart episode that aired. We'll link that below. If you haven't seen it, we put ads on Bart. We had Bart come on. That was really cool. But this week we've got Elon Musk trillionaire with a T. That's insane. Trillionaire pay package. We've got Anthropic. We've got Warner Brothers suing for Midjourney. We got a lot of news. Let's jump into it. Why don't we start with the pay package from Elon? What do you got there, Just?
Yeah, so I wanted to add this on the docket today because this is a pretty big news story that just came out, which is basically around Elon's pay package. I think it's over like the next decade, which could hand him over 423 million shares, worth about $143 billion today, if the company hits an $8.5 trillion valuation, which would then, if those targets are met, could make Elon the world's first trillionaire, which sounds just absurd. Like saying it just sounds completely absurd, but that's kind of the crux of the story. But as some added background, right? Musk has promised robo taxis and humanoid robots for years. A lot of critics argue that this pay package rewards some unkept promises and hype more than execution. But Musk insists, in order for this pay package to work, to have 25% voting control to push Tesla's AI ambitions forward, and is basically telling the board, "Hey, give me control, or I'll figure out and find it elsewhere." So, interestingly enough, within the context of this deal, Musk only gets his final 70 million shares if he has a CEO succession plan. So, it's in some ways Tesla admitting, "Hey, we need some plan for a post Elon future." The other added context here is that BYD is a major player within the space. It's been giving Tesla kind of a run for its money with declining emissions credit revenue, which is kind of a big thing that drove a wedge between Musk and Trump, and also kind of all the political fallout from that. So, major headline: Musk could become the first trillionaire. The question is, can he get there? So what do you think, T-Dub? Can he become the world's first trillionaire?
I mean, I'm not betting against him, put it that way. My question is, I guess it's just to be the first trillionaire, because really that number is arbitrary at that point, right? Like, what would you do with $1 trillion? I mean, I don't even want to know what he's planning. Actually, we do know what he's planning.
No, he's going to Mars. He's doing all his space exploration stuff, and
we're gonna send all the AI robots up to Mars with him, and they'll terraform, and who knows. But yeah, this is wild. I mean, $1 trillion. I always wonder, like, what is the number where it starts to make no sense? Like an additional.
That is it.
I know there's some inflation in there, but good God.
I mean, yeah, frankly, even like a few hundreds of billions of dollars don't really even make any sense if you kind of just
like that. After a couple $100 million, I can't imagine the difference in your lifestyle. Like you're already.
I mean, it leads to some really interesting questions around kind of capitalism and just how much money one person should be able to acquire. And part of me as an entrepreneur or someone in Silicon Valley, as someone trying to push technology and loves working with startups, et cetera, say, hey, listen, if there's enough consumer interest and you can do it, then go for it. It's just the market
why not
rewarding that. At the same time, it's so much money. You'd hope that there's so many pains in the world and so many things going on where that could be put to good use. You'd hope it's kind of like a combination of the two, where you can make a lot of money, but then do good, even at a small percentage, very small percentage of that, you could do a tremendous amount of good. But I was going
to say, for him, he seems like he's positioning the businesses to be good, whether that's save the planet for with electric cars, help people with Neuralink, develop of freedom of speech through X, and then he's got terraforming and having us be interplanetary species. It seems like those are his missions for the company to do well. It's interesting that he also wants the trillionaire status. I wonder what in his mind, he's like, hey, when I get the trillion, I'm going to continue to do well. The money's going to go to a good place. I don't know what he thinks there, or if he's like, hey, my job was to make companies that do well. What I do with my $1 trillion is on me. I don't know. Like, what do you think his stance is
I
on it?
mean, if there's any playbook that we've seen from the time at PayPal or SpaceX and Tesla, it's he grows these companies, then he takes all of that kind of network and resources and then puts it into the next enterprise. So I imagine he'd be spending a lot of that money on kind of whatever, he thought was the best use of pushing humanity forward in some ways. I think that's kind of like his ethos. So I think a lot of that will go to interplanetary travel, but just kind of go back to kind of the meat and potatoes of how this would actually work. I think a huge percentage of it is robo taxis, and that being the future, and really being able to execute on a strategy where most or a significant percentage of people are actually using those vehicles. And I got a great experience with Waymo. I believe you have it as well. So I kind of get it. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid there. But do you think you can kind of get there from like a regulatory perspective and just consumer safety or, concern perspective? Or
Yeah, I think so. I think I can see that. It makes sense when you think about it in action. It does make sense to have a bunch of robo taxis out there. Insurance and safety and drinking and drive. Like there's so many like things that are improved if we have the right software and the right companies doing this. So yeah, I kind of get it. I'm with it. Like yes, he's got the track record not to just take his money and buy a $1 trillion yacht. I think he will figure out the next thing and invest in that and take some risks for the greater good. I don't even know if that's the right term, but it's pretty cool. Like
yeah,
to think about.
I think we'll definitely have to wait and see. I think that it's just like how quickly can he get to the scale on penetration of robotaxis in the markets and different markets kind of opening up for him, and then how quickly can competitors you know stay close like a BYD and
Yeah.
put pressure on
I
the
mean,
core
he does
business. So,
that he does do. He puts a lot of pressure. You see how far electric cars have come. He made some bold claims there, and now you see everybody's got electric car answer, and China all in all of their population now is in on electric cars and recharge. Like he's fulfilled. He's checked it off. He said he's going to make electric cars a thing, and he did. Definitely took longer than what he said, but he did it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that's true.
I think yeah, this has got again. I think he likes to stay aggressive with his timelines, and if he falls short, he still has the mission at hand to accomplish. So I'm not voting against him. I'm not betting against him. Put it that way.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's a good segue into Anthropic. Let's talk about the monies, right? Like, there's a lot going on in the space. There's a lot of investment in and around the valley right now. And so Anthropic just announced a $183 billion valuation off of a $13 billion Series F raise by Iconic, which is one of the kind of leading growth investing venture firms out here. And there's a lot of hype around AI, but I thought it's kind of interesting to talk about what's going on with Anthropic, because I think the hype is truly matching the growth. So if you look at their revenue run rate, it jumped from 1 billion in January to 5 billion by this August, right? Which is just like incredible growth. And a lot of it is based off of unprecedented enterprise demand. And that revenue is typically stickier. It's not as fleeting. It's kind of on this consumer side. So I thought that was pretty interesting. What's driving the momentum is around Claude. So that's this kind of LLM family of agentic tasks that it's able to do coding, reasoning through that model that has a lot of developer interest and is kind of celebrated within that community. And then they have a tremendous amount of strategic backing as well, right? So they have partnerships with Google, Amazon, Fidelity, Lightspeed, even sovereign wealth funds through the Qatar Investment Authority, and also relationships with U.S. government. So I think they're selling Claude access to the U.S. government for $1, which is a interesting but more of like a symbolic move of just being a trusted vendor of a government, which will help them get other governmental ideas. And the companies' startup funding is up 75% in 2025. The question is, can they maintain this? Can they maintain this traction? They have some great partnerships. They seem to have some strong relationships with the government. Can this maintain? And I would say, I think yes. I think Anthropic is a really well-placed company. I think obviously it's not at the same clip as like an OpenAI, but I think that the main difference that they have is very much a focus from their CEO on safety. And I don't think that's necessarily what OpenAI is known for or perceived as. And I think there could be some slip ups down the line with OpenAI that could kind of challenge its hegemony. So yeah, curious. I know you're kind of like new to learning about Anthropic and their products, but curious what you think about them as kind of a contender to OpenAI or other things going on in the space.
I lost you there for a second.
Oh yeah, that was just just if any thoughts on kind of Anthropic and what's going on in the space right now in terms of the investment in AI?
No, it seems to make sense because you can't. I mean, Chat GPT is the buzzword, but you need some of these companies nipping at their heels, and this looks like it could be one of those. Like you said, if they have any kind of drop off, they're quickly right behind their coattails, and who knows, they could surpass them. And with the valuations are crazy, but I understand that acquiring talent and all of the resources that AI needs, it needs that funding. But boy, these numbers keep growing, and it's like there's no change. It doesn't seem that there's any slowdown on this. So we'll see. This will be a fun one to keep an eye on. I truthfully don't know a ton about Anthropic or how to even dive into that. And I think it's mostly B2B, right?
I think a lot of it is B2B. They haven't been able to gain the same kind of consumer traction as OpenAI, but really powerful models as well on kind of all those platforms that measure model performance, and they're particularly well known for like using it for coding as kind of like a code assistant, and also for kind of like longer form writing. They get a lot of high marks for that as well. So I think it's interesting. I don't, when we think about this market, do I think it's going to be 20 players? No, but I don't think it's a winner takes all. I think maybe it's a winner takes most, and then you have kind of 3 to 5 main players, kind of like what happened with cloud, where you had AWS, and then you have Azure, and then you have kind of Google Cloud, all able to come in and grab some share. So I think we'll probably see like 3 to 5 major players that have some specialty, but this is such a transformative technology that, like the internet, I think these VCs are saying, hey, if I'm going to make any bets, if I got all these billions of dollars in capital based off market returns and what we raised from all these funds, like this is the type of company that we should be investing in.
Kind of reminds me of like the browser wars with Netscape and Firefox and Chrome, and all of those were kind of like, how's this going to work? How's it going to play? What's default? That's kind of what we're up against here, it seems like.
Yeah. And then what do we get? We got, Chrome and Safari pretty much. Yeah. And I guess if some people who are more security focused, they could use like DuckDuckGo. I'm assuming, some people are still using Firefox, but yeah, I don't think it's winner takes all. And I think that's actually really good for consumers.
All right, next one, Warner Brothers suing. What's the deal here?
Yeah, so this, if you're kind of following things going on in AI and IP and what's required and continue to build and make these models better. It's a lot. It involves training data. It involves kind of taking what's on the internet, kind of pre-training data, which is like pre all these models going out, and then post-training data as well. But one of the big issues within the industry right now is accusations by a lot of the large IP holders. If you think of kind of like the Disneys, Warner Brothers, etc., basically accusing theft of these AI startups and research labs that are allowing users to take their IP and generate images. And so in the case of Warner Brothers, they have characters like Batman and Bugs Bunny, Rick and Morty, Scooby-Doo, etc. And basically what they're saying is that what the lawsuit suggests is that if you take side-by-side examples where Mid-Journey outputs, it looks nearly identical to Warner Brothers IP, down to like Batman's Kevlar armor, and their representation of that. And what they're saying is that Midjourney charges between $10 to $120 a month. And the lawsuits argue that copyrighted characters are a core draw of keeping those subscribers flowing for Midjourney, right? Like if they weren't able to kind of create characters that are very similar to that IP, then people wouldn't use them. And, the Midjourney CEO, David Holtz, once said, hey, what they do to train their models is grab everything they can, and which is essentially kind of handing lawyers a smoking gun. But that's not the full story, because there was a I think we had talked about this a few episodes ago as well, which was Anthropic came out of a lawsuit where they were getting sued for using their training data. They were getting sued for training off of internet data based off of like books, but they had purchased the books, and the judge in the case ruled that they are like that the output was significantly different and changed from that original text, that Anthropic was in the clear, and essentially it was kind of like one of the bigger cases in fair use, saying, hey, if you're training off of this internet data and the output is meaningfully different, then that's still allowed within fair use. Here, the biggest difference is kind of like this very unique kind of character-based IP. And what Warner Brothers wants is $150,000 for infringed work. So the broader context of all this is Hollywood is trying to frame it as, protecting artists versus AI free riders. So, this is really about kind of pushing the bounds of technology and creativity forward. So, more people can become creators. Is this about protecting merch sales and control? Is this about protecting, agency of creators to kind of exist and be compensated? A lot of this is still up in the air, which makes it pretty fascinating. But all these legal cases will have very meaningful impacts on the state of AI and how the industry moves forward.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to figure out, what's IP at this point, right? Like, because you could take a little bit of here, a little bit from there, and then what do you have? It's almost like we're on our way to universal income here. Like everybody owns a little bit of everything, so then whatever AI creates has to repay everyone. It's just I don't know how this is going to go. Because
I don't
really,
either.
everyone bites off everyone. Superman, Batman, and
Yeah.
Marvel comes a little bit off of that with DC. There's like fast follow with stuff, and how they all created it. And obviously they went their separate ways. But I think it's tough. It's tough to make these calls on what is truly IP and what is I don't even know what you want to call it. Like highlighted or inspired from, or
Yeah.
stuff.
I think that's the biggest challenge, right? So especially when you take like the images, what makes it sufficiently different from the original IP,
Right.
Like, what is the granularity? And I'm sure there's probably some cases that exist, and people are creating bootleg shirts like that all the time outside of stadiums of sports teams. So I imagine there's some precedent there, but how does it differ in this digital context and people using these new tools? Frankly, where I've come out on this is we're not stopping the AI train. Like, if you're not on it right now, you're going to be left behind, and that is a scary. Me personally, I think that's a scary scenario to be in. But I'm wondering if there is some type of middle ground between the IP rights holders and these training models. And one idea that I had was like, if there could be some type of like content crawling capability. So imagine there's a crawler that's embedded in the metadata of certain sites, and then when that crawler hits the site, it says it tags some field which is like AI access for micropayment terms or something like that, and then when it's indexed, it'd be required to check that, and then it can trigger some type of automated payment. And I actually think this is where like blockchain or other settlement based systems could be kind of interesting. But I think that there's got to be something. I don't know how exactly it's executed, but I think there has to be something like that. Otherwise, if you're a creator, why would you continue to create stuff, which I think is not good for humanity? On the other end, there's so much money invested in AI, and that being the wave, they're like, it's just not going to pull back. So what's the middle ground? Maybe you think I'm off. I don't know. What do you think is maybe the right solution?
That seems right. I don't know what the solution is either. It's tough. Like it is. We still don't know how AI is going to be creative, right? We're still reliant on human creativity for future and predictive things. So it seems like we're going to need human intervention with all of this, at least for temporarily. So we'll see. I'm not sure where this goes. It seems like a really important one though, as we're going down this path, like what this ruling does for AI and future IP rights.
Yeah, and a lot of businesses now are being based off of like this law, or but by this emerging legal context, but then by like the grayness that exists now. Basically, everybody's just kind of the Wild West.
Yeah,
Everybody's just kind of running, and they're like, okay, when we get wrist slap, we get wrist slap. The question is, how hard is that wrist slap going to be, and then what that looks like across geopolitical lines, and other countries as well, because our laws can ultimately be very different than Europe or Asia or individual countries. And how do you parse through all that? It seems, I guess, if you're a lawyer now, this is great for you, because in this chaos, there's a lot of hours to be billed. But yeah, I think fundamentally it can lead to some very uh meaningful shifts in how we're able to kind of work and treat these models. So we'll have to
a lot of AI talk
stay
today.
locked in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot going on. Appreciate the updates every day. What are we looking for ahead? I don't know. What do you have your eye on for the next week?
For the next week, I'm wondering, I think that were there some more companies reporting soonish?
Yeah,
I think there
soonish.
may be. I think there may be a few more, and I'm just curious. I'm mainly curious to see how everything plays out with China over the. And it's not really like the next week, but like the next kind of quarter or so, because there's so much revenue at stake within that market for these companies. You think of like Nvidia, Apple, a number of others, even like a Tesla. And so if we can't quite figure that out, that could have some kind of meaningful impacts on kind of forward revenue for these companies. So I thought the China greater tariff thing, but then more specifically China and how we deal with that, is probably what I'm most
And I
interested
saw
in. Yeah.
that Trump had a big tech dinner the other night, where it was Zuckerberg and Tim Cook and Altman and everybody kind of sitting at the table talking about how much they're spending in America. Found that interesting. Maybe we'll pull something out of that. I'll do a deeper dive into that. We can share that. I'll put that clip up here at the end here so you can watch that. But yeah, that's another thing we can jump into next week.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as they, are placating Trump and what he wants, everyone's still got a seat at the table. But if that changes, then, we'll see. But yeah, be great to get to share that clip.
Appreciate the update. We'll
Yes, sir.
talk next week.
Always good.